So again, now we're going to be writing the equation of the line. So in 2-1A, you got information, you graphed it, whether that information was like parts of an equation or the overall equation, and then you graphed the line, or you had to find the slope, that kind of stuff. Now we're going to reverse it. So the end goal for these is an equation of a line. If it doesn't tell you to put it like in standard form or anything, then your default is always y equals mx plus b form. So if it doesn't give you specific directions, like a standardized test might say, find the equation of the line in standard form, then obviously you want it in standard form. But if it just says find the equation of the line, then your default is that, y equals mx plus b. So you're going to get given different kinds of information, and based on what you're given will determine what you will do from there. If you are given the slope and the y-intercept, which would be like the easiest one, all you have to do is plug in the m and the b into that, again, y equals mx plus b. So I'd take the m, I'd plug it in before the x, I'd take the b, I'd plug it in after, and you would keep the y and the x in your equation as y and x. The next one would be if you're given the slope and the point. And from here you have two choices. You can either plug the point in and the slope in to point slope, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1, and then just solve your equation for y. Or you can plug the point into the x and the y and the slope into the m of y equals mx plus b, solve for b, and then plug back in the m and the b into the original equation, or into the y equals mx plus b. The third one would be, what if you're given 2 points? So you have one extra step. First, you're going to find the slope using the slope formula, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And then you'll plug either point, you can pick either one, it wouldn't matter, and the slope in using one of those options we just talked about, option 1 or option 2. And again, this is what I said in the first slide, but again, unless otherwise stated, answers will be in slope-intercept form. So when you go to write your answer out, it would be y equals mx plus b. For fractions, you can leave them in proper. Slope, you need to leave it in proper. The b, you can choose whether you put it as a mixed number or improper. I think WebAssign might mark the mixed wrong, so just keep it in improper. Just make sure to simplify. All right, here we go. So find the equation of a line with the given information. And we start with the first one. You are given m and the y-intercept. What variable is represented by the y-intercept? B, right? So that's basically just giving you the m and the b. So you can plug it in as y equals mx plus b. The m goes in place of the 3, or the 3 goes in place of the m, and the b goes in place, or the 5 goes in place of the b. Sophia. Okay, then the second one gives you the point and the slope. So I'm going to do it both ways, but I would just say pick a way. Sure. The first way, and I would say if I'm given point and slope, I use the point slope formula. That's what you're given. You only have to plug it in once you solve for y, you're done. Most people are so familiar with the slope-intercept form that they pick that one, which is fine. Then you have to solve for b, and then you have to plug it back in. So again, I'm going to show you both ways. You get to pick which way. Because this is the slope and this is a point, I'm going to start with point slope. So this would be my x1, this would be my y1. And I plug it into y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Y stays as y. Y1 is 5. M is negative 2. X stays as x. X1 is 4. Then I distribute the negative 2. Y minus 5 equals negative 2x plus 8. Watch your signs there. Add the 5. And I get y equals negative 2x plus 13. So that is option 1. Option 2 is plug it into y equals mx plus b. For that, this is just an x and a y. There's not an x1 and a y1 and an x and a y and a y and a y1. They're all just x and y. So y equals mx plus b. The y is 5. The m is -2. The x is 4 plus b. 5 equals -8 plus b, and then add the 8. And b is 13. Then I plug it back in. So in goes the b and the m. Y equals m is -2, x plus 13. Same answer, 2 methods. You get to choose. I'll never tell you you have to do one over the other. All right, so 3. M is 2/3, passing through x, -1, 2. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'll do it both ways. This would be my x1, my y1. So I'd get y minus 2 equals m is 2/3 times x minus a -1. What happens when we subtract a negative? Becomes positive. Good. Now I get y minus 2 equals, distribute the 2/3, 2/3 x plus 2/3. And then I'm going to add the 2. Y equals 2/3 x. 2 over 1 becomes 6/3. And I get plus 8/3. Now, if I were to go graph that, obviously I'd have to convert that 8/3 into 2 and 2/3. But because I'm just finding the equation, you can keep it just how it is. You could have also multiplied everything by 3 to get rid of the fraction in the beginning. The last step is going to be to divide by 3 again. So it would come back either way. All right, second method. Y, which is 2, equals m, which is 2/3, x, which is -1, plus b. 2 equals -2/3 plus b. And then I would add the 2/3. I'd still have to give it a like denominator, so 2/3 plus, this becomes this becomes 6/3, and I get 8/3 equals b. Then I take and plug the m and the b back in. Questions on that one? Okay, then passes through 2, 4, and 5, 6. So this time I have 2 points to choose from. What am I missing, though? The slope. How do I find it? Good. So my x1, y1, and it doesn't matter which ones you pick as the 1s as the 2s, as long as you're consistent within the point itself. This would be 6 minus 4 over 5 minus 2, which is 2/3. And then you can pick either point. So if one point had no negatives, I would say go with that one, because you guys make weird mistakes when it comes to negatives. These are both positive, so it doesn't matter. So I'll just pick the first one. And I'm going to do point slope this time, but you could do either one. Y minus 4 equals 2/3 x minus 2. Y minus 4 equals, distribute, 2/3 x minus 4/3. And then add the 4. So -4/3 plus 4 over 1 becomes -4/3 plus 12/3, or 8/3. Questions on any of those? All right, so here's our special cases, right? Because what's special about the equation of a horizontal line? It's missing a letter. Which one is it missing? If it's horizontal, what always stays the same? The y always stays the same. So the horizontal line is missing the x, which means this is going to be a y equals equation, and you literally just grab the y coordinate. Now with horizontal, you can actually say, okay, I know the slope is 0, and you can plug it in. Y minus 7 would equal 0 times x minus 4. Y minus 7 would equal 0, and y would equal 7. So you could find it using the slope if it's horizontal. But what's true about the slope of a vertical line? It's undefined. How do you plug in undefined? You can't. So there's no way to find that formula other than knowing vertical would mean that the x equals, there's no y, and you literally grab the x. So with horizontal, you can plug in, should you forget, you can plug in with the slope being 0. But with vertical, you cannot. You have to remember that that means it's an x equals. Questions on those? Yeah. Why is slope 0? You mean for horizontal?
Oh, never mind.
It's undefined for vertical.
Wait, sorry?
Are you asking for the horizontal one or are you asking for the vertical one? Because slope... Okay. Why is it 0? Because horizontal lines have 0 slope. If you pick 2 points on a horizontal line, like horizontal, right? The rise is nothing. There is no up, which would be 0. The run is whatever it could be. It could be 1, it could be 2, it could be whatever, depending on the points you pick. But vertical, it's undefined because now you have rise, but you have no left or right. You have no run. So it would be a number over 0, which is undefined. Yeah. Okay, now we go parallel and perpendicular. Parallel lines have the same slope. So hopefully we saw this algebra 1 and in geometry, but as a reminder, parallel lines have the same slope. If I asked you what the slope of a line is, and then I say what's the slope of a line parallel to it, you just give me that same slope. Because they would have the same rise and run, right? They never intersect. Perpendicular lines have slopes that are opposite reciprocals. So if I give you the slope of a line and it's like 1/2, the slope of a line that's perpendicular to it would be -2. If I gave you the slope of a line was -3, the slope of a perpendicular line would be a +1/3. So you change the sign and you flip it. If it said 2/3, it would be -3/2. Opposite meaning opposite sign, and reciprocal meaning flip it. And this is how you'll see those. Find the equation of a line with the given information. 1 and 2 both have 2 parts. 7 and 8 both have 2 parts. A says parallel to 2x minus 3y equals 5, passing through 2, -1. So in order to find the equation of a line, I need its slope and I need its point, or a point it passes through. So the first one I'm going to try to find is one that is parallel to this equation. What's true about the slope of that equation? Do you remember the shortcut? If it's in standard form, how do I get the slope out quickest? Good. -a over b. Here's my a, so -2. Here's my b over -3. So the slope of that line is 2/3. If you don't remember the shortcut, you solve for y. But then I am done with this line. So half the time we do these questions, people will then pull out the 5 and use that as the b or something weird. You cannot do that. You are done with that line. The only thing you need from it is its slope. So the slope of a line that is parallel to that would be what? 2/3. So I know that the slope of this first one is 2/3. And then I have my point, which is 2, -1. And then I plug it in, and you can do point slope, or you can do y equals mx plus b. I'm going to do point slope. Y minus a -1 would become +1 equals 2/3 x minus 2. I'm going to distribute the 2/3. Y plus 1 equals 2/3 x minus 4/3. And then I'm going to subtract the 1. Y equals 2/3 x -4/3 minus 1 becomes -3/3, which is -7/3. Now the only thing that I can match is the slope here. This should be the same as the slope that was given to me from my original line because they are parallel, so they should have the same slope. For B, what's true about the slope of a line that's perpendicular to that slope? Opposite reciprocal. So what's the opposite reciprocal of positive 2/3? Good. And then I use that point again and the new slope. So y, I'll do y equals mx plus b this time. So this is x and this is y. -1 equals -3/2 times 2 plus b. -1 would equal -3 plus b. Add the 3. B equals 2. And then I take and plug back in the b and the slope. Y equals -3/2 x plus 2. Okay, go to 8, which says 7 on yours, so if you want to update it, makes sense. Same kind of question. It's parallel to and perpendicular, so there's 2 questions here again. This time my equation is 5x minus 3y equals 8. So what's the slope of that line? 5/3, right? It would be the opposite of A, which is -5, over B, which is -3, so this is 5/3. So when I go to use the slope for A, which is the parallel line, what's my slope? Same, 5/3. When I go to use the slope for B, which is perpendicular, what's my slope? Good. I'm going to write it down here because this one's hard to read. But both of them I use this point. So again, remember, once you get the slope, you are done with that line. Don't use it anymore. So A is m is 5/3, and my point is -4, 1. So y minus y1 equals m. X minus a -4 becomes +4. Y minus 1 equals 5/3 x plus 20/3. And then I add the 1. Y equals 5/3 x. 1 becomes 3/3. So this is plus 23/3. And then for B, my m is -3/5. My point is still -4, 1. So y minus 1 equals -3/5 x minus a -4 becomes +4. Minus 12/5, and then add the 1. Which becomes 5/5, and this is -7/5. So what will happen when we get to quiz and test is you might have to find that equation and then graph it. So we'll pull the 2 sections together. I would start at the B, and then I would use the slope. Number 9 says rewrite the answer from number 8 into standard form. So I'm just going to pick one of them because hopefully once you see that one, you'll understand. But if I were to take this A and rewrite it into standard form has to have the X and the Y on the same side. The X has to be positive, and there can be no fractions or decimals. So the first thing I would say to do is get rid of your fractions. So I'd multiply everything by 3. And I'd get 3y equals 5x plus 23. And then I need the x and y on the same side, but I need the x to be positive. So I'm going to move the 3y to the right, and I'm going to move the 23 to the other side. And I get negative 23 equals 5x minus 3y. So we eliminate the fraction. We get the x and the y to the same side, and the x is positive.